This is a Film Stories original podcast.
Mother's Day is almost here, and you can get her the most beautiful time-tested gift around. A watch she can wear every day from Movement. Whether your mom is into classic dress watches, rare and refined ceramics, or tried-and-true bestsellers, Movement has something she'll love. And right now, everything at Movement is up to 50% off site-wide during their Mother's Day sale. A watch is a gift that celebrates all the time you spent with Mom. And a Movement watch is even more than that. Movement uses industry-leading materials for their fresh modern watch designs, from technically complex ceramics to vintage-inspired style, all for an incredible value your wrist and wallet will both love. And with one-size-fits-all convenience and fast free shipping and returns, it's a stress-free shopping experience. Save big on the best Mother's Day gift ever with Movement. Get up to 50% off site-wide during their Mother's Day sale at mvmt.com. Again, that's up to 50% off at mvmt.com.
We made this.
Welcome back, everybody, to the X-Cast. The truth is in here, and I'm your host on this one, Carl Sweeney, and welcome back to I Want to Believe Minute, which is where we go through the second X-Files movie 1 minute at a time. And today we're looking at minute 12, which goes from the 11-minute mark as the helicopter carrying Mulder and Scully is touching down in Washington, D.C., all the way through to 11 minutes 59 seconds as Mulder and Scully stand by the George W. Bush photograph on the wall. And joining me is regular X-Cast guest Clara Cook. Hello, Clara.
Hello, Carl. Nice to speak to you again.
Yeah, nice to be back with you today after yesterday's epic installment where we talked about presidential trivia and so on. And before we get going properly on this one, just a quick reminder to follow the show on social media if you possibly can, listeners. And if you're enjoying the podcast, please feel free to drop us a quick 5-star rating and review on Apple Podcasts. And don't forget as well that you can subscribe to the X-Cast Patreon at patreon.com/the X-Cast for a few perks like early access to episodes and more. Okay, so Clara, we're back for another minute. I suppose one thing there's a few actually things of note in this episode, in this minute, I should say, I think. The first one I'll quickly touch on is, like I said last time, Exhibit's character, the agent played by Exhibit, I think Drummy is his name. He speaks here and he tells Mulder and Scully not to thank him about the helicopter because he didn't send it. So I suppose they do mention in the film, don't they, that Exhibit's character is less keen on bringing in Mulder than Amanda Pete's agent, Dakota Whitney. She's the one who really wants to consult Mulder. So I suppose that's what he's getting at here, is that presumably Agent Whitney is the one who's sent the helicopter. I mean, do you have any real thoughts on those two agents that are in this film? Are they just kind of... they're not that memorable, are they, as X-Files characters, I don't think, Drummy and Whitney? Or do you disagree?
I don't think they're very memorable, no. I think the problem is, I think they might be slightly miscast. I mean, I'm not necessarily thinking that the actors did a bad job acting. They didn't really have complicated roles to portray, so how can we really judge how bad or good their acting is, I suppose. But I think Amanda Pete is quite miscast. She just doesn't look like an FBI agent. She doesn't seem to act a huge amount like an FBI agent. I there's just something about like her in that role that doesn't seem believable to me. And I think, correct me if I'm wrong, are they trying to make her, I don't know, like sort of like she believes Mulder when Scully doesn't believe or isn't? I don't know. Is there something there that they're trying to sort of stick her in there? Like, do you know what I mean? I just feel like there's a weird tension there where I don't know what's going on.
Yeah, I'm sure whoever's on the episode where Mulder's just had a shave will comment on this, but there's a moment where he turns up without his beard and he's obviously cut himself shaving and she's like pointing at his face and like, what have you done there? And it's kind of an odd moment. I'm not quite sure what they were trying to achieve between the two of them.
She implies they should have a longer conversation about why she brought him on, and then of course she ends up dead. So spoiler alert. So she can't have that conversation. But like, what would that lead to? What would that longer conversation? I don't know. I just felt like she was there to sort of be like a female foil to him, and when he's having this difficulty, he and Scully are having these difficulties about where they want to go and what they want to do, and if they want to work together this way again. It just seemed unnecessary. And I don't know if this is kind of like maybe something I shouldn't say, but like her shirt was really low buttoned, which is I don't want to shame an actress, but I was like, would that really be appropriate in the workplace at the FBI? Like, they're all quite well dressed and buttoned up. The men are wearing suits, and she kind of walks in like, do you know what I mean? It just, I was like, are they trying to put a sex symbol in here? I don't know. What I just didn't. I was a bit confusing. But the thing about the exhibit sort of characters sort of being disgruntled and happy to see them, that's classic Mulder and Scully. That's classic X-Files, that Mulder and Scully show up as the experts, walk into a situation where they're treated rather hostilely. I mean, you see that in episodes everywhere. Yeah.
Absolutely. But it's funny, like the thing you just described of looking at Amanda Peet and thinking she was miscast and she didn't seem like an FBI agent. I kind of had that reaction, but about Exhibit more than about her. Like, there's the early scene, not in this minute, but when he's, when they're all out with Billy Connolly at the start of the film and the men have got the sticks or whatever that they're putting in the ground, and he's kind of shouting like, hold the line, gentlemen, and like pointing. Just something about it. Like, I don't know. I was just looking at it thinking that's not an FBI agent pointing. That's an actor trying to convey that he's an FBI agent, but failing to convince me. I don't know. I might be being cruel there, but we'll come back to Mr. Exhibit towards the end of this episode, actually. But there's a few things going on here. I think there's a cameo appearance, isn't there? Kind of a blink and you'll miss it cameo from an actress called Vanessa Morley, who will be better known to viewers of the X-Files as who, Clara? Who is Vanessa Morley?
As Samantha. She played she played Mulder's sister Samantha in many episodes of the X-Files. Some of the early scenes where she is taken, I believe, and then played versions of Samantha's like kind of clones,
like in Herrenvolk, that episode. Yeah.
And I have to say, I really love this bit. I think it's really clever about how it's like a little in joke. I don't know if you'd call it an Easter egg, but it's like a little in joke or a little nod to the fans that would know this. I mean, she's recognizable. She looks like older, but she's still very recognizable as that particular person. And how she really looks at Mulder when she passes by, and Mulder really looks at her, which is obviously just a nod to us that we know. Obviously, it's not the same person and they don't know each other. But I like that. It's kind of sweet,
Yeah. And I think it's subtle enough that people who don't recognise her won't be sort of taken out in the moment by this and wondering what's going on there, because I think it is very much blink and you'll miss it kind of thing, isn't it?
Yeah, and also because other people are also still looking at Mulder and Scully because they've just been escorted in and end up they're both not dressed like FBI agents, and so people are already looking at them.
Yeah. And then there's a moment I've always struggled with this film, which is the George W. Bush moment. So this is the moment where they're stood outside, the room they're about to go into, and they see the portrait of George W. Bush on the wall, and the X-Files theme is like whistling away on the score, isn't it? And I don't know. Before I explain why it bothers me, does it bother you? Do you like this moment? What do you think they're trying to convey with this?
Well, it's a particularly funny picture of George W. Bush. He does look kind of weird. Like, there's something about his eyes. I don't know. His eyes seem to be pointing in different directions. I just think it was probably a bad portrait of George Bush originally. It does look particularly amusing in this context. And then when they add this sort of like little sort of high-pitched like theme, X-Files theme, then it's even more funny. I guess they're implying that he's kind of weird. Could he be an alien? I mean, it's not. I don't know, it's serious. It's a joke, right? So I assumed it was. I was assumed that the actual production crew weren't particularly fond of George Bush, and that's why they put it in there. And it's not they're poking fun. I don't think I particularly found it offensive. I think the thing that I like the most is like Mulder and it comes in the next minute, doesn't it? But Mulder and Scully kind of looking at each other afterwards. I just thought that was kind of amusing.
I mean, I've always taken it as a comment on the idea that time has passed and that they're looking at it because it's weird because the last time they were here, presumably it was President Clinton. And that's the problem I have with it, is that actually George W. Bush was president since January 2001. And therefore he was the president for every episode from Signs and Wonders onwards. So in theory, there shouldn't be anything weird about them being in the FBI building with a picture of Bush on the wall. But I think it's kind of playing off the idea that the X-Files is a 90s show and is more probably associated with like the Clinton era, isn't it?
The problem is it takes you out of the X-Files and it takes you into like modern day. I mean, I know it's not 2008 now, but like it takes you into real politics. Do you know what I mean? It breaks, is it like, what's the concept? It breaks the fourth wall, if that's what you would say.
Yeah, well, the fourth wall is like if Mulder sort of addressed the audience directly, but I know sort of know what you mean.
Maybe not, yeah.
Yeah, but you sort of mean that they wouldn't ordinarily do this kind of thing. They weren't very often referring to, you know, who the president was and all that in the show itself. Is that kind of what you mean? Whereas this seems a bit strange because they're doing that. Yes,
it's sort of, I think breaks you. I felt like it reminds me I'm watching a film, not that I'm in the story with them. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think it's an odd moment. It doesn't bother me unduly. I've just always found it strange. In terms of the sort of behind the scenes stuff on this minute, on the commentary track, Chris Carter said that it's amazing that helicopter landing scene could even be shot because it was very hard for them to get permission to fly that helicopter.
It also looks like the weather's terrible, right? It's really rainy and windy when they land. And I thought, could they even fly a helicopter in that kind of weather?
Yeah, I don't know if it was that or something else, but yeah, for whatever reason, they had to like fight hard to get permission and then only had sort of one usable take that they could put in the film. And on the commentary track, Frank Spotnitz said that when we see the Capitol Dome in these shots of Washington, D.C., it's a visual effect. So probably not in that stock image of Washington from the previous minute, but when we see it in the backdrop later, it's a visual effect. But yeah, Clara, did you have any other thoughts on this minute before we get into some possible tangents and trivia for this episode?
I just love the way that they light the halls of the FBI. In fact, I've loved it throughout the entire franchise of the way they light the halls. I'm fairly sure that government buildings are not lit that way. They're probably lit with some sort of horrendous fluorescent office lighting. But it looks kind of cozy, it felt like they were returning to a cozy FBI headquarters, which, I mean, I can't believe I'm calling the FBI headquarters cozy, but it looks cozy. It's going to be like wood panel doors and the lights kind of dim. I think they light they've always think that the lighting in the X-Files is really interesting. But I thought them walking down the corridor is quite nicely lit. Yeah.
Okay, so on this one, Clara, I was thinking that we could talk a bit more about Exhibit because he's in this minute, as we mentioned. Are you a big hip-hop fan, Clara? Do you like rap and that kind of thing?
I can't say that I am a big fan. I don't object to rap or hip-hop. It's not something that I dislike massively. But I do live with somebody, a partner, who has, on and off throughout his life, especially his teenage years, has liked hip hop and rap as if he comes from that kind of cultural background, which he really doesn't. So I have heard it, and I kind of know some of the famous 90s, early 2000s hip hop tracks that you'd recognize. But I can't say I know much about Exhibit.
Well, yeah, I'm kind of like, hip-hop is not it's not the kind of thing I gravitate towards naturally, but there was a period like a few years ago when I was still buying CDs where I thought, I don't really know anything about this kind of music, so I'll buy a few of the acclaimed classics and I'll try and educate myself. So I remember buying Straight Outta Compton by NWA.
Yes,
actually liking that album. That's got stuff like Fuck the Police on it and, that kind of thing. Exhibit, I knew nothing about. I went on Spotify and I played a couple of his most listened to tracks to see if they rang any bells, and they really didn't. So no, I mean, Clara, are you familiar with Exhibit's 1999 song Pussy Pop by any chance?
I can't say I am, but I feel I should probably now Spotify it after this.
Well,
right?
You don't need to, because I'm going to give you some of the lyrics in a minute. But what about 2004's Choke Me, Spank Me, Pull My Hair? Have you heard that one?
I think I have heard that, but I don't know if I could sing it or rap it back to you. I think that does sound familiar to me. Did this cause controversy at the time? I mean, nowadays that kind of thing probably wouldn't cause controversy because we've had a lot more explicit songs since then. But that sounds like something that would probably have caused controversy when it was first released.
I mean, it wouldn't surprise me if it did. I had never heard of it until yesterday, I'll be honest. With Pussy Pop, though, I thought I'll Google the lyrics to this. So if anyone's listening with children, you might want to skip forward a minute or two, perhaps. I'll just read you what I assume is the chorus, Clara, and let me know your thoughts. Round and round we go, it don't stop, till we all get dough. Come on, make it hot. Baby girl, do the pussy pop, pussy pop. Lick shots for the pussy pop, pop pop. Looking good with your stink ass. Type of ass maker, N-word, pull it over fast. Make it hot, baby girl, do the pussy pop, pussy pop. Lick shots for the pussy pop, pop pop. So what do you make of that?
I mean, she's obviously selling candy, isn't she? Candy that's going to make a lot of money, like a lot of lollipops there, right?
It's the only possible interpretation of those lyrics.
You missed out on a career, Carl, here, of hip-hop career.
If any hip-hop record labels are listening, I'm available.
I do think it's funny that, well, I mean, who knows? The genre may have changed, but some of the sort of stereotypical parts of this genre is men talking about how much money they've got, while also asking women to do something very sexual.
But do you think...
Or asking women to, to, I don't know, go get money or do something. And it doesn't sound like the most alluring, attractive lyrics that I've ever heard in a song. But, I mean, each to their own. Maybe some people love it.
Yeah. I mean, do you think hip-hop, just quickly, this will be our last talking point on this minute, but does hip-hop get a bit of a bad rep in that sense? Because there are other types of music where people are talking about violence, potentially, and things like that, aren't there? You get old folk songs where the man is talking about killing his wife or whatever, or
yeah, that's true.
Or Johnny Cash, like, I shot a man in Reno just to watch him die. But it seems like hip-hop, historically, and rappers have always kind of come under the spotlight for that kind of thing. But do you think it's an unfair criticism of them, maybe?
Yeah, I do think so sometimes, because I think some of the songs that get the most attention and the most notoriety are the ones that are maybe more sexually explicit or more about crime and money. But there's actually quite a lot of hip hop that is about pushing back against authority, often authority that is discriminative. I mean, Straight Outta Compton's an example of that. Like, it's about talking about being stopped by the police when they're minding their own business. Talking about racist systems of oppression, talking about trying to leave a childhood of poverty and violence. I mean, I just think it depends. I mean, obviously within hip hop is a big genre, right? There's lots of different artists within hip hop, and different artists focus on different things, and also different artists through different periods in their career might focus on one theme more than another. But there's a lot of hip hop songs as well that are about, struggles of growing up in impoverished communities that are discriminated against. So like the sort of African American experience of being in America. I don't know. Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't think it's always so so violent or so sexual. I think there is a problem sometimes with misogyny in hip hop, but then I don't know, man. Like you said, there's a lot of folk songs that talk about women in bad ways, and there's also pop songs that aren't so great about women, and so I don't know. I mean, you could just say that's just society. It's just society throughout history. I mean, so I feel like stuff like like the song, I don't know if I should say it, F the Police. I mean, they were just constantly stopped from doing their jobs and living their lives by the police. I might write a song like that if I'd been persecuted by the police. You know what I mean? So I think it depends on which artist, and also depends on what era as well.
Yeah.
I think hip hop from the 80s and the 90s is quite different than hip hop now.
Yeah.
And it goes through trends, doesn't it? Music goes through trends, and what people decide to sing about and write about in music and what they rap about in music goes through trends. Yeah.
I think that's well said, and I don't know enough about the contemporary hip hop scene to espouse on it further. But anyway, just thought it'd be fun to look at a bit of Exhibit's
Exhibit
lyrics on this.
You're
episode.
You're a poet, and we didn't even know it.
Anyway, we'll be back to cover minute 13 very soon on the Xcast. But until then, and Clara and myself will be back to do that, by the way. But until then, always remember, trust no one.
Hey guys, time to get in on the action for the biggest moments in basketball with Prize Picks, America's #1 fantasy sports app. Just select 2 or more players, pick more or less on their projections, place your entry, and win up to 100 times your money. Right now, Prize Picks will match your first deposit of up to $100. Just download the Prize Picks app and use the code GET100. That's code GET100 on Prize Picks for a first deposit match of up to $100. Prize Picks. Pick more. Pick less. It's that easy.